Alright, let's get started with this. Okay guys, welcome back to our fourth and final episode in this 2D platformer series. Today we're going to be finishing off with our fourth episode and final episode. Today we don't have a lot to do, we've only got our... let's pull that up quick. So far we've only got a few things left. I actually went through our game yesterday and noticed that we haven't actually finished our player animation, so we'll quickly jump back into that and finish that off. And then after doing that, I think the majority of the gameplay will be finished. All we have to do is set up our canvas and put in our our coin count in the top corner somewhere, just to keep a reference of how many coins we collected. And after that we are actually going to create a main menu, so when you start the game from, let's say, your desktop, you start the game in a main menu and then you have the option to play the game or to simply close the game from the main menu. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to obviously add in our play and pause state into our game. We might also add in a menu inside our game so that you can return to the main menu from gameplay. We'll see how long it takes to get the first few things done, but yeah, let's go ahead and start let's go ahead and continue with our first checkpoint, which is finish our player animation. So let's go ahead and pull up our game. I have opened it just like in our previous episodes just to save us some time. So here's our game. It's exactly where we left off. Let's go ahead and play it just to make sure everything is working. So all our sounds are working. You can collect coins, you can move left and right, the player rotates with and faces the direction of travel. You can obviously collect all the coins, try and dodge the spike so that we don't get sent all the way back. Okay, I couldn't do that, but anyway, you get the idea. Everything's still working, the enemies look like they're still moving. Let's go ahead and go to them. So they're moving fine, coins are all rotating fine, all animations are looking good. So let's go ahead and start finishing our player animation. So at the moment, if we go ahead and play that again, you can see that our player is, when it's not moving, well, to be fair, at every point in our game our player is playing the idle animation, and we don't want this. So what we want to do is we want to play the idle animation only when the player is idle, obviously, and then when we start moving left and right, we actually want to play a walking or a running animation, whatever you want to call it. So let's go ahead and set that up. So let's go ahead and see, did we make a running, or yeah, we did. We made a running animation, so let's go ahead and play that quickly. If we double click on player, it'll take us there, zoom out, play that. Let's select our running player out. So that's what we want it to look like whenever we run left or right, and then when we stop running and stay in one place, in other words being idle, we want to play this animation, which is what we have so far. So if we go and, I don't know why I pressed that, but if we go back into our edit mode, we go into our animator, we can see here, how do I do this? Okay, got a weird mouse, but on entry our player will always play an idle animation, which is fine, that's exactly what we want. And now we want to add in a transition from our idle animation into our player running. So to do this, we need to create a transition like that, and then we need to add some conditions here. So we want to get rid of the transition duration. We want that to be 0. Get rid of that, set that to 0. And then for conditions we want to add in some parameters here. So what do we want? We want our speed to be greater than 0, which means we are moving. So let's go float new float speed. We'll leave that at 0. And then we will add in a boolean and call this, let's see, is running maybe, or is idle. Let's go for is idle, just like that. Make these capital. So whenever we transition from an idle state into a running state, we want to make sure that first of all our speed is greater than 0.01, and we want to make sure is idle is set to false. Similarly, when we make a transition back into our idle state, we want to reverse these. So let's set the transition duration to 0. Has an exit time of 0 as well, so we're going to untick that. Did we do that for the previous one? Yes, we did, so that's good. And then what we also want to do is we want to reverse these conditions, so the speed needs to be less than 0.01, so basically we're standing still. And then we want is idle to be set to true. So let's go ahead and see if this works. And this is not going to work obviously because we haven't actually programmed this in our code. So let's just see what this gives us. So our idle animation is still playing perfectly fine, which means we're still entering the game in an idle state. So that's fine. Cool, perfect. So now if we go to our player, what we want to do is we want to find where we start moving our player, and we have a velocity. Yeah, so let's go ahead and open this quick. So we will know if our speed is greater than 0 just by checking through our velocity. So whenever our velocity is greater than 0.1, like we said, like we set in our animation animator tab. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and set this up. So we want to first of all find where we are telling our player to move, and that is over here in move player. So let's go here and say, we'll make a comment and say play running an animation. And to do this we need to get access to our animator, which we should have on our player. Let's see, do we have an animator on our player? Yeah, there we go. So there we have it. So we just need to create a reference to this in our script. So let's go copy that quick, paste that, and change this from audio clip to animator. There it is. And then change the jump audio to animator. Just like that. And then in our move player we can simply go animator dot set float, because our speed is a float. And then we want to reference the speed, and we want to set the speed to our our velocity. So to do this we will say direction of X, because this is going to be our movement. So let's go ahead and see if this is working. First of all we need to drag and drop in our animator into our player reference that we created. So let's go ahead and do that. Drag and drop that in there. So hopefully things go well and this works. So there we go. So as soon as we start moving, you can see that our player starts running. So let's go ahead and fix this, because we actually need to make it stop running as soon as we're not moving. Like now it should be an idle, it should be playing idle what's called the idle animation. So to do that, let's try and first of all, let's go ahead and round this off. So we'll round it off with math f dot absolute of direction x. Go ahead and play this and see if it's still working. So we should get an idle state, so there we go, we get that now, and our running animation is still working, so that's perfect. So let's just go to our animator quick and check our so those are all fine. Player idle, to go from an idle state to a running state, we want to set the speed greater than 0.1 or 0.01 and set idle is to false, and then we want to transition back by setting the speed, or if the speed is less than 0.01 we want to play the idle animation, and as long as our idle is set to true. So this should actually be working, but I do not know why. So let's see. First of all, we need to let's go ahead and just print this out quick. So if we print out this value, we can say debug log. We'll print this value out so that we can see what we're actually getting. No need for an L, so save that. What's happening here? They shouldn't be. There we go. Errors are gone. So if we play this, we should see our so idle. Well, our movement value is set to 0, which is fine, and our idle animation is playing. But as soon as we move slightly, our move value increases, so it plays our running animation. So, and then as soon as we stop moving, the value goes back down to 0. So let's go ahead and see what's happening here. So first of all, let's just go and delete this, because maybe we might not need that, as long as we have where is it? Yeah. As long as we have the speed is greater than 0.1 or less than 0.01, that should work. So maybe if we let's get rid of that quickly, because we know that's working perfectly fine. And then if we play this and see if anything has changed, hopefully it has. Yeah, so there we go. There was a problem. We didn't really need the is idle boolean, because we just checked our speed movement value. So now that we are not moving, our player is in an idle animation, and as soon as we start moving, you can see we play a running animation. So there we go. That is working perfectly fine, just how we wanted it. And then now let's go ahead and see what is next. So we can go ahead and tick that off, and that took us about 15 minutes, so that's not too bad. So the rest should really be a lot easier and a lot quicker. So let's go ahead and set up our canvas. So to do this, let's right click in our hierarchy and create UI canvas, and we'll set this to, actually we'll leave it at canvas. So if we go to our scene and double click on canvas, we can, where's it gone? Double click on a canvas, there you go. You can see our canvas is much larger than our game. Here's our game down here, and that's perfectly fine, because this actually gets rendered on top of our game. So in gameplay, our canvas will appear inside our camera view. which is fine, that's what we want. So if we go here and add in our text elements and our UI elements, so what we want to do here is we want to add in a single button, one at the top right over here, and that's just going to be a play and pause button, and we're also going to be using the space, not the space, sorry, the escape key to play and pause. And then in the left corner we're going to add in an image and then some text over it just to represent how many coins you picked up. So this is going to be easy to set up. All we need to do is right click on our canvas, go to UI and select image, and then this will be coin. We will rename this to coin count background, just so we know what it is, and then we'll go ahead and position this, anchor it to the top left, and then position it up there in the top left, and then we will move this slightly to the right, let's say about 20, or let's go a bit bigger than that. So let's see, let's say about 50 maybe. Okay, let's go about 35, yeah, that's fine. 35 from the left and 35 or minus 35 from the right, so it goes down. And then we want to make that a bit bigger and see how this looks in our game. So that looks a little bit too big, but we'll resize it once we've added in our backgrounds. So let us go and add in a second image, I think we need. Or let's go ahead and just replace this background quickly. So let's go and find what we need. So it's not under animations, it's not under scenes, no, so it'll be under 2D platformer. So simple UI pack, fonts, no, buttons, icons, panels, header, no, settings, stats, maybe under stats. So let's see, text box is under text box, there we go. So if we drag and drop this, not there, so we need to click, well, let's get rid of that. Click on our coin base and we'll go ahead and drag and drop this into there. So now you can see that is, instead of just a white box appearing on our scene, we actually got a nice background. So I think we can should we resize that? Let's just have a look here. So if let's replace the text box with that, so the coin bar background looks a lot better and actually makes sense because that's what it's supposed to be used for. So let's use that. And then what we want to do is we want to add in a text element and call this coin count, and we'll just set this to 000 for now. And then first of all, let's go ahead and find with, okay, that's over there. So let's go and center that in the middle, leave it on the left. We can resize it to about 30 maybe, a bit too big. See, about 20. Or let's go ahead and resize this, make this a bit bigger. We're going to add in a little picture of a coin over here, so we'll leave a bit of a gap over there. And then let's go ahead and change the color of that to match our coin color. So we'll do that, set it to that kind of mustardy color. And then we need to change our font size, so let's go 50 should be fine. So what does that look like in our game? So that's cool. So if now we need to add in a second image and place this over here. We will anchor it to the left of the background image, and then we will also move it to the left, and then we're going to replace the image with our coin image. So we need to go ahead and find that. Let's just search for it, a lot easier. So is there a big one? So here, coin big icon. We will use this one, so drag and drop that in. So that looks good. So now if we let's go ahead and move our background. So we'll take this and we will move it to about 50, I guess. And then for our coin image, let's go rename this quickly. Coin image. We're gonna want to offset this by, let's say, about -25. So that should cover that. So that's perfect. What we can do though is we can go ahead and move the entire picture or whatever UI element, let's say about 60 maybe, so it just looks like it's not touching the edge of the screen. So that looks good. Now let's go ahead and resize the background of our text because it's a bit too big. So if we set the height to about, it is 100 now, so let's try 80 maybe. So let's try 70 maybe. Yeah, let's go with 70. 70 looks good. So now we don't really, because it was only about 10 coins, I think. Let's count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 coins. So we only really need 2 digits. So we can resize that to be a lot smaller, and then we can also resize this to be a lot smaller, and then we can just drag this into where we want it to be, so roughly in the middle. So now because there's only really 14 coins in the scene, it should always fit in. It should always fit in there. So I think the text is a little bit too big, so if we go ahead and change that to about, let's go 40 to make it an even number, and then we can go ahead and center that. How does that look? Yeah, so that looks good. So let's just move that like that. So that looks good. Now what we need to do is we actually need to set this up to our gameplay and link it all together so that it actually updates every time you collect a coin. This is fairly simple. So what we need to do is we need to go into our player. Let's just save this quick. Save project so we don't lose anything, just in case. So in our player script, we want to get a reference to our text field. So to do this, we need a serialized field. What is it? Text. So we need to go. What is it? I think it's UI. So copy this and go using Unity engine.ui. No, that's AI. So UI, just like that. So that works. Text, and then we'll name this to coin count text. And then every time we load up the game, we're gonna want to set this to 0 because we haven't actually collected any coins yet. So let's go and say in start, after we record our player position, let's just go ahead and go coin count text text is equal to coin, can't spell, coin count, not text, just coin count. And we will go ahead and make this now. So we're gonna want let's add this here, an integer to keep record of the coins that were collected. So let's go int name it coin count, and set that to 0, so that whenever we load up the game, we can. What's happening here? Why is it not working? Oh, coin count dot to string. Need some brackets at the end of that. So every time we open up our game and start a new game, we're going to set the coin count in our scene over here to equal 0. So let's go ahead and see if that works. So at the moment it's set to 30. So when the game launches, you're going to say, well, you're going to see that it's going to replace it with just a single 0. So let's go ahead and see if that works. It's not going to work because we haven't actually dragged and dropped in our text reference into our player player script, so let's go ahead and do that. So let's select our player, coin text over there, so let's go ahead to our canvas. What is it, coin count, drag that in there, and now that should be replaced with just a single 0. So let's go ahead, so there we go, that's working perfectly fine. So now what you'll notice is it's not actually updating yet, so let's go ahead and fix that. So that should be fairly simple. So whenever we collide with a coin over here, we simply want to go and say coin count, or we just want to add 1 to coin count. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll do it in our destroy coin over here. So play animation, just above our play animation we want to go coin count plus equals 1. So that should update our UI every time we walk through a coin. Let's go ahead and see if this works. Fairly simple, but we never know. So you see that is not actually registering, so don't actually know why. Let's go ahead and see. Oh, I know why. So because we have set our we've only set our coin count at the start of the game, so the start function is called before the first frame, as you can see here. So what we want to do is we want to constantly update this text value. So in our update, which is called once per frame, we want to go and reset our coin count text to coin count. So we'll copy this and paste this over here. So having done that, I don't think we really need to do that anymore. So let's go ahead and delete that and go back to our game and see how that looks. So if we play this, well, our coin count should be reset to just a single 0, which it has been done. So if we go ahead and so it is registering that we're picking up a coin, but our coins are not actually worth 2, so that's a little bug that we need to fix. So the next one should, okay, so it's every time we pick up a coin it's getting called twice. So let's go ahead and figure out why. So let us go here and say bar before is equal to coin count, and then after we've added 1 we'll go ahead and say after, and just see what exactly this is giving us. So let's go and print this out so we can see what we're getting. So debug.log, and then let's go ahead and type before is equal to and then we want, yeah, so we want space plus, and then our variable before plus after is equal to that. So let's go ahead and run that and see what we get. So let's see if we are getting, can you see, yeah, so you can see this. So if we go ahead and collect our first coin, you can see that before is equal to 0, and then we pick it up, and then afterwards it's equal to 1, but somehow it's still calling it twice. So then it calls it again, where the coin count is equal to 1, and then it adds another 1 onto it, so now it's equal to 2. So what we want to do is I think we need to somehow register that if we collide with our coin, we need to set some sort of variable boolean saying that we are colliding with it, and then only after we have finished colliding with it, or after we played all our coin animations, we need to set this back to false so that we can collect another coin. So let's go ahead and try this out. So what we want to do is we want to go under boolean here, we want to go private boolean is colliding. Let's set that equal to false, I think. Yeah. So as soon as we where did we do it? So over here in our trigger enter 2D function, if we collide with something, we want to set is colliding equal to true. And then as long as we're colliding with something, in other words, is colliding is equal to true, we don't want to do anything, so we're gonna go ahead and return out of this function. So if is colliding is equal, it's just if is colliding, then we want to return so we need to do this before we set is colliding is equal to true, otherwise we're never going to get our colliding function to work, because every time will be set to true and it's going to return out the function. Let's go ahead and do that before. So if is colliding is true, it's going to return out of the function. If not, it's going to go to the next line, it's going to set is colliding is equal to true, and then it's going to do the rest of the stuff in the function. And then part of doing that is calling our destroy coin function. So after we have destroyed our coin over here, we want to reset our is colliding equals, we want to reset it back to false, and hopefully this will allow us to only call the destroy coin function once. So now we should hopefully only see one being added to our total tally. So there we go. So every time we go through a coin, we only get one added to our coin count. So that's working perfectly fine. Just a simple quick fix. Okay, so and also when we collide with enemies, or like you saw a spike or something that will send us back to the beginning of the scene, we're not going to reset the coin count, because if we did that, we'd probably have to respawn all the coins, and that's not part of this episode, or that's not part of the series. But maybe down the line we'll go into more depth in this game and create like a multiple level game. So yeah, that's something for the future, but for now that seems to be working fine. So let's go ahead and save that, and let's go ahead and see what's next. So set up our canvas UI, update the game UI when the player picks up coins. So we've done that. We've added our is colliding onto the trigger enter and add a main menu. So let's go ahead and add a main menu, sorry. But first we said we're going to add in a button here that allows you to pause the game. Should we do that? What's the time? We've got about half an hour into this episode, so yeah, why not? Let's do it. Or no, let's do our main menu first. So if we save our project, we can save project and then go back to our assets, and we need to create a new scene and we will call this main menu. So in here is going to be something fairly simple. All we are going to do is we are going to just have a simple, I think it's what, two buttons, a play game button and a, what's the other one, and an exit button, so it will quit out of the game. So to do this, let's go and add in a canvas to our scene. So UI canvas, we'll leave that name as canvas. And then what we want to do is we want to find everything that we need. So what we want here is to find all of the panels and stuff that we need. So here's panels, so yeah, so that's basically all we need. So in a canvas we're going to go ahead and create UI, a panel, we'll leave that name as panel, and then in our panel we want to create, well, let's go ahead and resize this. Well, first of all we'll center it, and then we'll also anchor it in the middle. And then let's go ahead and zoom out of here somehow, something like this. Or let's go ahead and change the background to panel, I think it is. Yeah, so we'll keep, or should we make it lighter? Panel 1 maybe. Let's try panel 2. So it doesn't really matter what you use, but we'll go for panel 2 just because it's got more texture on it. So if we resize that, we can place it over here. It doesn't really need to be that big because we're only going to have 2 buttons in it. So we will leave it like that, maybe place that in the middle, make sure these are all good. And then what we want to do is in our panel we want to add in another image just to make things look better. For this we're going to set it at the top over here, make it bigger, and this is going to be like our heading. So let's go like that and replace the image with our header. So if we zoom in we can move this down a bit just so it looks good. So that looks good. And then we need to add in some text into this image. So text, and we'll go main menu, just like that. We'll replace the text with main menu. Change the size to about 40 maybe, is that big enough? So let's go ahead and resize this. And just make it a bit bigger like that. We'll center it, center our text in the middle horizontally and vertically, and then we can go ahead and change the color of our text just so it looks better. We could probably make our text a bit bigger, let's say about 55 maybe, or 52. Yeah, let's go for 52. And then what we want to do is we want to add in our buttons next. So if we look here, we have buttons, or backgrounds of buttons. So what we need to do is close the image. Under panel we want to create another, or a new UI button. We will resize this, make it about that big maybe. Let's see, how big is this? Okay, so that's a bit small. Or maybe, so I think our panel's a bit big, so let's go ahead and make that a bit smaller. So make that like that. Go and move this down a bit. Not that. Select our arrows and not that one. Image. So let's go ahead and redo that, or undo it rather, and move that down like that. So this is now moved, so what we need to do is recenter this. So that is now centered. Also let's go ahead and change our background from blue to black because it looks a bit weird. So change this to black, so hopefully that looks better. Yeah, that looks much better. And then let's go ahead and change our buttons. Let's make it a bit bigger, just because there's only 2 buttons and we can use as much space as we need. So let us change the background of the button to brown maybe. So that looks good, I think. Yeah, that's good enough for now. And then for the text we want to say play and change the size to about 30 or 35 maybe. And then we can also go ahead and change the color of it to match this maybe, or maybe we want something else. Well, we'll leave it like that, but then we'll give it a bit more brown to it. Or actually, let's just go and add this color. So that's a bit better. We want to say bold. And then what we can do is we can actually change the font of our text so it looks a bit better. So we can drag in our font in there. So that looks a bit better. Let's go ahead and do that with our main menu as well. So drag in our custom font. This font actually comes with the game, so if you download this game pack you will have it. Just drag and drop it in. And then let's go ahead and copy and paste the button because we don't really want to make it from scratch, so we'll just duplicate it and then change the play button text from play to exit. And then to make it look a little bit different, we can go ahead and change the background of, well, the font color to a little bit of red. So that's looking good. So let's go ahead and select those, and we can move them down slightly because we're going to add some more decoration in our text box. So let us have a look. So what have we got? Icons. So we've got a bunch of stars somewhere that we can use. So let's go ahead and add in an image. We will place this in the middle somewhere, slightly above, and change the size. Or let's go ahead and replace it with our star quick. So what we want to do is we want to go star full and replace that over there like that. We could probably set this to about 80 by 80, or let's go ahead and say 90 by 90. And then we'll duplicate this and change the size to about 70 by 70. Move it down a bit to the side and down a little bit. So let's go about 92 maybe by 76. And then we can go ahead and duplicate that again and just go put it over here somewhere. Let's see, I think that looks good. So that looks much better. So let's go see what this looks like in our game. So if we play this, you can see that these are actually buttons. You can click on them, but I don't do anything yet because we haven't set them to do anything. So let's do that now. Let us just go. Just want to check something quickly. So actually, no, let's just leave it. Or can we change the color of our panel background maybe? Yeah, so we'll make this a little bit brighter just so it looks better. Yeah, that looks better. So let's go ahead and make these buttons work now. So what we want to do is we want to create a main menu script, and we can do that by just adding an empty. Let's go game, we'll name this to game manager, and then on here we will add in a main menu script. So let's go ahead and create that, create an add, so that will attach automatically. So what's the time schedule? So we have been going for about 44 minutes, so we're looking good. So if we close this, because we don't really need that, let's go ahead and drag that into our script folder, and then we can go ahead and open this up. We can open it up when it wants to. So there we go. So now in here, because we're going to be switching through the different scenes, we want to import our scene management. So just like this will give us access to switch between multiple scenes. So we don't really need any of these. What we're going to do is we're going to create our custom functions. So let's go public, let's say public void main or play game. And then what we also want to do is go public void exit game, just like that. And then we will also add in a main menu function, because we'll reuse the script in our gameplay, and whenever you press escape will pop up another menu saying giving you options to go back to the main menu or resume play. So let's go main menu, bracket. So in here, okay, so we can't have the same class name as a function, so let's go main menu. We'll just go main menu scene just to make it easier, just like that. So now what we want to do in here is create some read-only strings. So read-only string play game, and that's going to be equal to our game. It has to be the same name as our game scene, so that's going to be main scene. Main scene, like that. And then we'll just copy and paste this, change this to main menu, and this will be main menu. So in our exit game, this is going to be fairly simple. All we want to do is we want to go application, or application, try it again, application.exit, or is it, no, exit, not exit, might be quit. Yeah, so application.quit. So all that's going to do is once we click on the exit game button, it's just going to quit our game and return us back to our desktop. And then in our play game function, what we want to do is we're going to go scene manager dot load scene, and we want to load in our play game scene. So we'll pass in the play game scene's name, which is main menu. The same thing for the main menu scene. All we want to do is load in our main menu, so main menu, you pass that in there. So that is actually it for that. So if we go back to our Unity editor, we can click on our buttons. So button 1, we'll rename this to play button just so we know which one it is. Let's see, yeah, so that one's play and this one's exit. Get rid of the 1. And then in here we can go large star. For this one, we'll just go right star. And then for this one, we'll just go left star, just so we know what's what. So let's go link these buttons to our script. So let's go on click. We want to add in a game manager with a function of, which one is it, play game, just like that. So that's it for that one. And the same thing for exit game. We want to drag in our game manager that has our functions on it, and select under main menu script, select exit game. So now first we need to actually add in the different scenes into our settings, because if we don't do this we won't be able to switch between them. So we can see in our scenes in build section we've only got our main scene. So what we want to do is add the open scene, so that's our main menu scene. So that's perfect. We want to close that, and then let's go ahead and see if this works. So if we play this, we can see play game launches us into the game nice and easily. We can still play the game, everything works, our sound works, we can collect coins hopefully. So that's working nicely. We still only gain 1 coin, another single coin, so everything is good. If we stand on the spikes we lose and we get sent back to the beginning. And now we need to work on the last thing of the game, and that is adding in a button in our game scene that will allow us to transition back to our main menu. So let's go ahead and jump back into our main scene. Click on that. Let us find our canvas, wherever that is. So in here we'll simply add in an extra button, UI button, and we will name this pause button, or let's go menu button. So what we need to do here is, first of all, we need to pop up a menu screen, but then we also need to pause everything that's happening in the background. So we're coming up on about 50 minutes now, so hopefully we can get this done within 10 minutes. So let's just go ahead and place this in the top right, or anchor it in the top right, and then we'll move it into the top right as well. And then we'll offset it a bit by, let's say, what do we do? This one by 60, so we'll do this one about 60 as well, or needs to be negative 60, so it goes into the scene. And then our Y value was minus 35, so this one will be also minus 35. And then for our pause button, we will add in a pause icon. So let's go and drag and drop that in there, and then we can get rid of the text because we don't really want that. So you can see that we can see that, but it doesn't really look like we want it to look like. So if we because a pause button is going to be square, so they both need to be the same. So let's try about 70 by 70 maybe. What does that look like? So that's a bit too big. We'll try about 50 by 50 maybe. Yeah, so that looks a bit good. So let's just move this minus 45 maybe. Does that look good? Yeah, that looks better. So if we play this, you can see we can actually press on. Okay, you can't, it doesn't actually do anything, but if we go ahead and program this to do something, we need to so we're going to change this up a bit. So let's go in here, we'll go public void pause, not that, pause game. So in here we want to, first of all, we need to create an empty so we have access to this, and we'll name this game manager, and then we can add in our main menu script onto it. So we've got reference to that. So what we want to do is we want to go to our main menu, and we want to add in the function through our game manager object, referencing our main menu script, and then we want to pause the game. So whenever we press the pause button, let's just go ahead and print out debug.log, a message that says game paused. So let's go ahead and see if this works. So let's go ahead and play the game, and every time we click on our pause button, we can see we're getting a message in our console saying game pause. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and create in our player in our player script, we want to add in a boolean over here. We want to call this is paused, so we'll name this to public so we can access it from the other script. Public bool is paused. It needs to be one word. We'll set that to false, so whenever we load in the game, our game is not going to be paused. So we'll set that to false, and then every time we pause the game, what we want to do is we want to get access to the script. So to do this, we need to go and actually get our I wonder if we can go, let's just try this, player dot instance dot maybe that doesn't work, instance dot is paused is equal to true. See if that gives us any errors. So clone the object original returns a clone. So okay, we won't do it this way. So let's go ahead and do it the long way. So in here we want to go what is it? Private. We need to get access to our player script. So actually, can we do this way? Let's think about this quick. So if we go to our game, in here we've got our game manager. Okay, yes we can, because then we got a player. So let's go ahead and reference our player. So here we go, serialized field. What is it? Game object, I think. Let's call this player. And then over here we want to go player. Player script, because that's what we want to get. Want to get the script off of the player. Player script. I think that's it. So yeah. So then we want to go ahead and put back our start function, private start. So in here we want to go player script. It's not autocomplete, I don't know why. Dot get component, and then it's going to be player. So that should be fine. And then in here we need to go player script dot is paused is equal to true. So let's go ahead and see if this works. So in our player we're just gonna print out debug.log is paused, and see if this actually changes. So if we go back into our Unity editor, we can now reference our player in here by simply dragging and dropping, and hopefully we will get a print out. Okay, so let's say game manager, what's happening here? So main menu dots. Okay, so on line 16 we're not actually referencing player. Okay, so we need to go ahead and say player script is equal to player. No, so player, we need to put this here, player. Yeah, just like that. So the player script is equal the player.get component, which is the player script. So in other words, we want to access this player script, which is simply called player, off of our player game object, and that is what we have referenced here. So we basically just dragged and dropped in our player into our inspector, and in our code over here, as soon as we start the game up, we're going to go ahead and get that script off of our player so we can use it. So if we play this, we should not get any errors, hopefully. So at the moment you can see our play is not paused, so everything's good, and as soon as we pause we get that gets set to true. So if we so we need to add in an unpause. Oh no, because we're going to do that in the main menu. So now let us go and say pause menu. So if we go back to our player now, we will see that, well, when we played our game, you saw that when we paused the game, our player was actually still moving, and you can probably see if we go ahead and play that, if we zoom out a bit into our scene. Let's go down to our player over here. So you can see it's still moving, but we are actually playing the game. So if we go and pause this, you can see pause is set to true. He's still bouncing up and down, and so are our enemies. So our enemies are still moving in the scene, so we don't want this, and we also don't want our animations or anything to keep moving. We want everything to freeze. So it's very simple. All we need to do in here in our update, we just need to go if not is paused, then we will do everything that. So we put this in here. So if a game is not paused, we will allow the player to move, we will flip the player as well, and yeah, obviously the coin count will change as well. But then what we also want to do is we want to go into our enemy and we want to do the exact same thing. So in here we want to copy the reference to our player just like we made it in the main menu. Copy that, paste it in here, and then copy the start. Do we have a start function in? We should do, because we get the start values. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and copy that as well. Paste that in our enemy start function right at the top, because we want to do that first to check if the game is paused. So we've got that. So now that we've got the player script on our enemy class, we can go ahead and see in our update, we can check first before we do anything if the player script dot is paused is equal to true, then we don't want to do anything. But if it's equal to false, then we will allow everything to move, like our enemies, and we'll allow our enemies to flip direction and all of that. So let's go ahead and see what happens if we play this. So hopefully all of this works, because then that will be the majority of our game done. So let's go ahead and reference this, because we can drag and drop our player in our enemy. So open that up, and we need to drag in our enemy or our player into our player reference on the enemy script. So let's go ahead and play this. Hopefully there's no more errors. So that's all good. So if we go ahead and pause this, so that's not actually working. Or is it? So okay, so it is working, but we need to now fix our animation so that they also stop playing. So, and also we need to add in our play function so that we can resume play in our game. So let's go to our, first of all, let's go ahead and see, can we actually pause an animation? So let's go and do this quick. So go desktop, and let's go ahead, Unity 2D pause animation. So pausing an animation. I don't see a straightforward way to pause animation. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that. So if we go back to our script, our player, or let's see, if we move, where do we play our animation? So animation.enabled is equal to false. So since we got a reference of our animator on our player, let's go ahead and see. If it's not paused, then we will allow our player to move, else being the game is paused, we'll go animator dot enabled is equal to true, I think it is, or false maybe. So let's go see if that makes a difference. So, and just so that we can see if our game is paused. Let's just go debug.log is paused, just so we can get a visual reference to see if something is happening. So if we play this, we'll see a print out of saying false, sorry, because our game is not paused. So if we go ahead and pause this, our player stops and our animation, our game is paused. That's why we're getting true printed out. So we can't move up and down. But then if we go ahead and look at our enemies and our coins and all that stuff, our scene objects, they're all still moving. So we want to reference somehow all of those, but for the sake of this video I don't think it's really necessary. Mainly because we could probably do it on the enemies, that would make sense, but maybe the coins and the flames we don't really need. Otherwise we'd have to go in and create them individually for each one, and that will take a long time, and it's pretty much the same for all of them. So we'll do it for the enemies. So let's go ahead and reference our animator on each enemy, or on the enemy. So let's go ahead and put that there, and then in our update here we want to go, if the game is not paused, then we want to play it, else animator.enabled is equal to false. So that should pause the animation of our enemies. We just need to reference our animator in both of our enemies, so just drag and drop that in and play that and see what that gives us. So far so good. So if we go ahead, let's go ahead and pause that. So pause, our player stops moving, and so does our ball, not our spider. So let's go ahead and see. Interesting. Okay, that's probably why. So if we go and put that in there, yeah, so we just need to drag in the right one, so drag in our spider animator, not our ball animator. So that's all working. Let's see this now. So pause the game, our player stops moving, and if we go to our scene view we can see our enemies stop moving as well. We'll leave our coins and our flame because it's the exact same thing, so we don't really need to do it because we've done it for the other three. So it's basically the same thing. You just have to drag and drop and create an animator reference in each of the classes for the different things. Just because this stream is coming up on about an hour and 10 minutes now, we'll leave that out. So now we want to, first of all, in our pause function, we need to reference, we need to determine if our game is already paused, and if not, we want to pause it, and if it is paused, then we want to unpause it. So for that we can go if player script.is paused. So if the game is paused, then we want to set this to false, else we want to set it to be true. So at least this will allow us to pause and unpause the game. Why is this not letting me? Okay, there we go. So let's go ahead and see, does this work? So we can go ahead and delete the printout now, just because we don't really need it. We know it's working. Delete that so we don't get a lot of spam in our console. So let's have a look. So if we play this, we can pause our game, and then okay, so it is working, it's just that we're not actually playing our animation anymore, and that is perfectly fine. But if all we need to do to fix that is we need to set our animator.enabled is equal to true, just like this, and then same for enemies. Animator.enabled is equal to true. So that should allow all our animations that were paused to resume and start animating again. So let's go ahead and see, does this work? So everything's working, you can jump, you can pause the game, you can unpause, so that's working perfectly fine. Okay, so we have a little bit of a bug there, so okay, so we need to figure this out. So every time we press space, we actually pause the game. Interesting. So well, let's go ahead and put back the debug in our player so we can see if this works or what's happening. Debug.log is paused. So let's go ahead and see what's happening here. So if we play this, we can now hopefully see what's happening. So false. So every time we jump, it's working fine. Okay, so it's not doing it anymore, so that's good. And then if we go ahead and pause the game, so something is happening here, and every time we press the space bar, we are unpausing and pausing the game, which should not happen. So let's see. I don't see any reason why this should be happening, which is very strange because something like this has never happened before. Let's have a look. So move player, get the player's input, check the player is grounded. If the player is grounded, so this move player only happens if the game is not paused, so that shouldn't even be calling the space, or it shouldn't be receiving the space input if the game is paused. Let's have another look at this, just make sure that things, so jump up and down, pause the game, you can't move left or right. If you press space, you're still able to jump, and then you can move left and right. Very interesting. So let's see. If the key, get key down, key code dot space, and is grounded, then play audio clip maybe. No, that shouldn't be a problem. That's just one line of code. So this should not be doing this, and who knows why it's doing this. There's literally no reason for it to be doing this, and we can also get rid of that because we don't really need that. That's working perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and see.
Trying to think of ways to you. Your voice stuck in my brain. We never got to see it.
Very interesting. So I think let's just see. Okay, so everything is working except for the pause. Well, it is working, but let's go ahead and look it up. So let's see. Unity space bar pressed is doing weird things. Doing wrong? Someone yeah, so that's calling the wrong function. So okay, so that is because the button is selected in play mode. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if that works. So here it says that is because the button is selected in play mode. Click the event system. In the inspector, in the preview, the darker area near the button, you should see selected your button name here. So if we go to, where is it, canvas, menu button. What? So that's because the button is selected in play mode. Click the event system in the inspector. Okay, event system in the inspector. In the preview docker area near the bottom, you should see selected. I do not see selected. Selected, first selected, no, nothing. Okay, first of all, let's put this in play mode and see if anything happens. Base input, so that's something different. So nope, that's still the same, nothing's happening. Here's submit. Okay, so and in the standard input module you can see that the submit button is set to submit. If you then go to edit project setting input, you can look at submit there twice by default. So let's go do that. So file, more Unity, what is it? Build settings, maybe. No, we need to go to project settings. So preferences, project settings, input, maybe it's on the player settings. So build settings, player settings, input, where's input? Input manager, actually, so input, you can look at submit. Where is submit? Not, there you go. So there's two, name submit, joystick button 0 key or mouse button, and the next one is, so what does it say? Key. One of them has alt positive button set to space. Does it? Joystick button 0. Yes, it does. As you can see, return is the other one that triggers it, as well as joystick button 0. So pressing space clicks the button if it is selected. So the button is still selected because it was the last button you clicked. I believe setting the button's navigation to none should fix it. If you do that, navigation won't work for the button anymore. So let's just go ahead and delete that. So have no space as an alternative button. So let's see, does that save? So that should, let's go ahead and see if that works. So hopefully this works. So if space works, you can pause, press space, it doesn't unpause, and then you can unpause. There we go. So magic. See, Google is your best friend when you're a programmer. So that is it, I think. So let's go ahead and let's just play this again and make sure that it is working properly. So you can run, jump, collect coins, and then if you jump into the spikes you die. Okay, so there's another bug. Okay, we're just coming along, getting given bugs after bugs after bugs. So let's have a look. So collect coins, that's fine. That's all fine. So that's working properly. Okay, cool. And then you can still die. Okay, cool. So it's working now. Maybe that was just my computer is struggling a little bit, so maybe that's, as you can see, it's loading quite slowly. So maybe that's just what the reason was. So let's just test this out again. So you can collect coins and then you can die. Okay, you can pause the game, you can unpause it and still jump up and down. Okay, so that's all working now, so that's perfect. So let's go ahead and add in one more thing. So I said when we were doing our main menu, I said that we would press the pause button, then it'll bring up a menu, just because we spent some time trying to figure out that bug. I'm going to change it up a little bit, and we're going to add in a simpler version of that, and we're going to say if you press the escape button, we will take you straight back into the main menu, and then from there you can escape out of the game. So to do that, let's go in our update function. We will go if input dot get key down, with a key code of escape. Then we want to go scene manager, which we need to load in here. So using Unity engine.scene management. So here we want to go scene manager dot load scene main menu, and what we need to do now is create this read only. So copy one of those, change the name, main menu, as well as main menu, just like that. So that should allow us to, did I name it correctly? No. Menu, like that. So that should, yeah, that's perfectly fine. That's good, no errors. So as soon as we press on escape, we should be taken straight back to our main menu. So let's press escape, there we go, back to our main menu, but now we have a bug over here that says main menu 0. Okay, let's see. What? So let's try that again. So if you press escape, main menu, reference, game manager, player. Okay, that's fine. So because we don't need the main menu and we don't need the player in the main menu, we'll just leave that out for now. It's not that much of a big deal. Let's see. Yeah, I think we'll leave it like that for now. That's something for if we redo this game and make it a lot more complicated, we'll go ahead and fix this error. But for now, the game is working perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and save this. Let us save all our scripts. Okay, that's done. They're all saved. So we can see everything on our checklist has been completed except for our last commit to GitHub. So let's go ahead and just save that once more time and then go ahead and close this. We shall open up our GitHub desktop now, and then wherever that, there we go. So here, okay, so we'll copy and paste this because this is what we did today. Copy game UI and game state, and then what else did we do? Finished. What is that? Oh, okay, new subscriber to the channel, that's great. Thank you to whoever that was. I can't actually see, but you are officially the first subscriber to this channel. So I do thank you very much. Welcome. I hope you're enjoying the videos. There's a lot more to come in the future. This is the final episode of this series, and we're going to be starting a new one from tomorrow. But for now, let's go ahead and finish this. So finished, player animations. What else did we do? We set up our main menu. We updated the game, added in our coin count to our canvas. Can't spell today, obviously. What else did we do? Yeah, that's it. Set up our and set up our pause and unpause button /state. So there we go, that's it. That is officially the last thing we have to do for this series. So while that is committing, let's go ahead and close that, and then we can swap this to the main screen because everything is done. So yeah, that is the first official game that we have completed in this first 4-part series. If you liked it, please do give this series or each episode in the series a like, and please do subscribe to the channel. From tomorrow we will be starting a new game called Breakout. A very simple game. All you have to do is control a ball with a paddle and break some blocks. We're going to be adding some cool things like some particle effects that will allow you to, or will allow the game to look like when you hit the bricks it shatters into pieces, and some particles effects will fall down. So yeah, if you're interested in that, please do subscribe to the channel and turn your notifications on, because you will be notified whenever whenever I post a new video. But for now, I think, let me just check one last thing. So I think if I look over here, wrong thing. Yeah, so that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed this series, the first series that I've ever put out on YouTube. I've enjoyed it a lot, so there's a lot more to come. I think I've got an episode planned for the next 2 weeks. So episodes will be going live every day at 6 o'clock UK time, so don't miss out. Come join me and let's create some crazy games together. But yeah, that's it for tonight. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you. Bye.